All right, how you doing today, guys? Welcome back to another day of 7th grade math. This is Mr. Gomez, your favorite teacher in the whole world. And today we're going to keep talking about simple interest. We're going to go over the problems that I left for homework for my students in class. And those are going to be the ones highlighted in green. So we have numbers 1, 5, and 6. The regular straight up simple interest formulas using the same formula. And they're very similar to 3 and 9, which we did on the previous video. But before we start, if you haven't subscribed to my other channel, I would like to invite you to do that. And I'll leave a link for you right here. That's MTV Alex. If you want to support the channel, link down in the description. If you haven't seen the other videos, make sure you check them out throughout. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started. So, simple interest, we have the formula I equals PRT. I stands for interest. P stands for principal. R stands for the rate. Remember, you have to convert that rate into a decimal. And T stands for time in years. If it's not given to you in years, you will have to make it a factor of years. So number 1, it says, determine the simple interest for these loans. So for example, we have $450 at a rate of 7% for 2 years. So all we gotta do is multiply the three things. So the first thing we have to do is convert this into a decimal, 1, 2. So we're going to have 450 times 0.07 times 2. And when we multiply all that, we get $63. I'm not going to go into detail with the multiplication. All you have to do is multiply. Number 5, we have $600 at 4% for 9 months. So again, this is the principal, this is the rate, and this is the time. And notice, that's not years. We need to make it into a factor of years. So I'm going to write this on the side. So 9 months is out of 12 months. That's the fraction I'm going to use because 12 months is 1 year. Now, we have a fraction that we can actually simplify. If we divide both of them by 3, this will actually be 3/4. And we can also make that into a decimal if you want to, which is going to be 0.75. And you can use either this, or this. Whenever you multiply, it's up to you, whatever is easier. So, the first thing, convert this into a decimal. That's going to be 600 times 0.04 times, I don't know, whatever, each one of them is going to give you the same thing. So whenever you multiply all that, again, you can use the fraction, you can use the decimal, whatever you want to use for the 9 months. So this is going to be 600 times 0.04 times 0.75, and it's going to give you $18. So whenever you deposit $600 at 4% interest rate after 9 months, you're going to get $18 extra in your bank account. So a total of $618. Number 6, we have $24,000 at 5.5% for 5 years. So we're going to multiply. This is the principal, rate, and time. So to find the interest is going to be the principal, 24,000 times 0.055. Notice, it has a decimal. I still have to move it 2 times to the left. And then times 5. When I multiply all that, I get $6,600. So if I have a deposit of $24,000, and the bank is going to give me 5.5% interest rate for 5 years, at the end, I'm going to have $6,600 more in my bank account. So for a total of $30,600. And you can work on some of these extra ones just for extra practice. I'm not going to do so because they're the same thing. All right, for the second part, it says solve each simple interest word problems. Now we have word problems. So we got to identify the principal, the interest, the rate, or the time, whatever is given, because some of them we're gonna have to work backwards, and we've done that in the previous two videos. So, number 12, Zara puts $4,000 into an investment yielding 5% annual simple interest. She left the money in for 5 years. How much interest does Zara get at the end of those 5 years? So we're looking at how much interest she's gonna make. So we are actually looking for I. So we gotta recognize the principal, which in this case is gonna be the 4,000. My rate is 5%. You gotta convert that into a decimal, don't forget that. And the time is given to you right there. Time, 5, in a word format. So, that's the formula. So interest, my principal is 4,000 times my rate. You gotta convert that into a decimal. Times the time in years, which is 5. Now, whenever you have something like this, you can go ahead and multiply in any order. So I like to multiply 4,000 times 5. That's 20,000. 20,000 times 0.05, and it's gonna give me $1,000. So whenever I multiply this, I get $1,000. So that means I'm gonna put in $4,000 in a bank account. I'm gonna leave it alone, let it generate interest for 5 years at 5%, and at the end of those 5 years, I'm gonna gain $1,000. So that means my total is gonna be $5,000. 4,000 initially plus the $1,000 interest is gonna give you the total of $5,000. Number 15. How many years? Now look at this. We are looking for how many years? We are looking for the time. Will $1,200 yield an interest of $180 at 3% interest rate? So I have my principal, I have my interest, and I have my rate. So I'm gonna have to work this one backwards, okay? We're gonna have to work this one backwards. So using the same formula, I'm gonna substitute the values in where they go. So for I, I'm gonna use, remember this is the formula, and we're looking for T. So instead of I, I'm gonna put in 180 equals, instead of P, I'm gonna put in 1200. Instead of R, I'm gonna put in, we gotta convert that into a decimal, don't forget that. And instead of time, I'm just gonna use the letter T because I don't know the time. So now we have an equation, a one-step equation that we have to solve. So the first thing we gotta do is multiply to 1,200 times 0.03. And when we multiply that, we get 12 times 3 is 18. 12 times 3 is 36. Then you add the 2 zeros, but then you take away 2 zeros, so it's $36. So you're gonna have, the new equation is gonna be 180 equals 36T. And then when you divide that, because these two are multiplying, you gotta divide by 36 on both sides. And when you do that, you're gonna get a total of 5 years. You're gonna get time equals 5 years. Any questions on that one? Does anybody have any questions on that one? If you do, please leave them down in the comments below. And if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe so far. We have a few more questions that we gotta do. Number 16 is gonna be very similar to the previous one that we did. In this case, we're gonna be looking for time again. So it says Jimmy invested $4,000, that's gonna be my principal, at a rate of 4.5%. The rate equals 0.045. Go ahead and move 2 times to the left, always. And he earned $540 in interest. How long was the money invested? How long was the money invested? We're looking for time. Again, I equals PRT. This is what we're looking for. It's going to be just like number 15. So I'm going to substitute the values in. For I have 540 equals, for P, I have 4,000. For R, I have 0.045. And for T, that's what I'm looking for. Before I can do anything, I got to multiply 4,000 times 0.045. 4,000 times 0.045. That's going to give me 180. So whenever I multiply those two, I have 180. And this T just comes along. And on the other side, you still have $540. Now, the last step is to undo that multiplication by dividing by 180 on both sides. And when you divide 540 by 180, notice you can also delete these two zeros if you want to. We talked about that before. So T equals 3 years. And that's the answer. So a little bit, one last step at the end. One last step at the end. Okay, next 2 pages. More word problems. We have number 2, 3 on this page. Let's look at this real quick. Again, the interest formula is going to be I equals P R T. R has to be in decimal form. Okay, just remember that. R, the rate, has to be in a decimal form. Number 2, Mike invests $2,000 in the bank. So my principal is going to be $2,000. Right there. At a rate of 5.5%, the rate equals 5.5% or 0.055. And the time is 6 years. So if you do this all the time, you're gonna get all the labels that you need for the formula, and that way you can use substitute the values in. So the only one that I'm looking for is gonna be how much interest, which is my question. I'm looking for I don't know. So I'm looking for I know my principal is 2,000. I know my rate, I'm going to be using the decimal form. And the time is going to be 6. When I multiply all these 3 together, so again, I can multiply 2,000 times 6, that's 12,000. 12,000 times 0.055 is going to give me a total of $660. So how much interest will that make in 6 years? $660. That easy. Number 3, we're going to do something similar. We're going to label it I, P, R, T. Let's see what values we got. Okay, Kelsey takes out a loan. So this is my loan. The principal is going to be the loan. $6,000 to start a business after high school. The bank charges 8% interest right here. This is your rate. And I'm going to write it as a decimal right away. Okay, just move 2 places to the left. After 5 years, that's the time. 5 years. Remember, the time has to be in years. If it's not, you got to make them a factor of years. It says, how much interest? That's my question. I don't know. So this is what I'm looking for. I. So again, I equals P. I'm going to use 6,000. The rate, 0.08. And the time is 5. When I multiply this and this, I get 30,000. Times 0.08. 3 times 8 is 24. Add 4 zeros, 3 times 8 is 24. Add 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then take away 2. 1, 2. So my total is going to be $2,400. That's the interest. That's how much he has to pay in 5 years. All right, the rest of them are similar. We're going to go back to the next page and we're going to do 7 and 9. Again, we're going to label it I, P, R, T. Question says, at what rate? So I guess we're looking for the rate. I don't know. Do you need to invest $12,000? That's my principal. To make $2,880 in interest after 8 years. So we're going to use the formula, fill in what we know, and then find the rate. So instead of I'm going to use 2880. This is one of the ones that we're going to have to work backwards. Equals the principals, 12,000. We're going to fill in everything that we know. The rate, I don't know. And the time is 8 years. Now, on the previous one, we talked about the time, and the time was at the end, so it looked kind of easy. But this is the same thing. Since we're multiplying, we can multiply in any order, and it's not going to change the product. So I can rewrite this like this. 12,000 times 8 times R. And when I multiply these two, I get 96,000. R equals 2880. Now I have an equation that I can go ahead and solve for R. So I'm going to divide by 9600, and what I do to one side, I do to the other side. 96,000, I'm sorry. So this will cancel out. Over here you can delete the last zero if you want to, but when you divide, you're going to get a decimal. So R equals 0.03. Now notice, we have to, on the previous ones, we always have to convert the rate into a decimal. So if we have it as a decimal, what do you think we gotta do? We're working it backwards. So we gotta convert that decimal into a percent. And that is very simple. All you gotta do is move the decimal 2 places to the right. So the rate equals 3%. So if you invest $12,000 after 8 years at 3% interest rate, you're gonna make $2,880. $2,880. That's working it backwards. And number 9 is gonna be very similar. Number 9, Morgan has an investment worth. This is the investment. That's how much it's worth. We have to do a little extra step, and you have to be cautious of this. Because if you don't read this correctly, you don't do that extra step, you're not going to get it right. So she has an investment worth $130,000. That's the total. After 20 years, time. Notice, T for total is uppercase. Time on the formula is lowercase. It's 20 years. If the original investment was $50,000, right here, that's going to be my principal. That was the original investment. What must the interest rate have been? So I need to know the rate, but they're not giving me something that I need. Look at the formula. The formula says I equals PRT. Okay? I know the principal. I can find this. I know the time, but I don't know the interest, right? I need to know the interest in order to find the rate. I cannot have two unknown values. But remember, Previously, we talked about, and I've been telling you on the first page, the total will be the principal plus the interest, right? If you wanted to know the total, it will be the principal plus the interest. And I gave you this one on the previous video right there. And on these ones, I told you, well, you will have $380 more on your bank account. So, basically, to find the total, you add the interest and the principal. Knowing that, we can come back over here. We have the total, and we have the principal. To find the total equals principal plus interest. We know this too. So we gotta find the interest, right? So let's go ahead and substitute the values in from here. So the total is gonna be 130,000 equals the principal 50,000 plus interest. And we have a one-step equation. We gotta leave I by itself. Is 50,000 positive or negative? In this case, it's going to be what? Positive. So the opposite of positive, it'll be to subtract 50,000. What you do to one side, you must do to the other side, right? So this will cancel out. You will be left with the interest. When you subtract these two, you get 80,000. So the interest accumulated was $80,000. $80,000. So now I know my interest is 80,000. And I can go ahead and substitute the values in for this formula. So I equals 80,000. You have to do that extra step and you have to be able to recognize it. That's why I show you how to find the total since the beginning of this series of videos. Equals the principal, 50,000. The rate, I don't know. So I'm just gonna put in the time. And the rate right here. That way I rewrote it. 5 times 2 is 10. You add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. R. So that's what? 1 million. So now, in order to undo that multiplication, we have to divide by 1 million. But what I do to the side, I must do to the other side. This will cancel out. So in one side you're going to have the rate. You can delete 4 zeros if you want to. So you have 8 over 100. But when you divide that, you're going to get 0.08 or 800ths, right? But again, just like on the other one, we can't just leave that like that. So we got to convert that into a percent. So we're going to move the decimal 1, 2. So my rate equals 8%. And that's going to be my answer. So again, after 20 years, your original investment of $50,000 at a rate of 8% is going to give you $80,000 extra. So you're going to have a total left over of $130,000 in your bank account. I hope that you learned something today. Don't forget to always convert the rate into a decimal, or if you have it as a decimal and you need to change it back into a percent, you must do that. You have to be able to recognize if you have a total or you have the principal or the interest and work with what you have. If you learned something today, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and share it with somebody who might find this interesting or wants to learn about this. If you haven't, please go ahead and subscribe. If you haven't seen my other channel, please do so as well and subscribe as well. Other than that, if you want to support the channel, link down in the description. That's it for this one, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.